Hey everyone, and welcome to the Perfect Bite podcast, your fusion of food and entrepreneurship. You'll hear stories from chefs, restaurateurs, CPG brands, and more from the food and bev industry. All of them are at different points in their journeys, talking about their experiences and how they've cooked up something new. Let's dig in. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Perfect Bite podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Perkins. What could be better on a hot summer evening than the most succulent, saucy barbecue? How about a spread prepared by a Michelin-trained chef? Now, that's better. I've been lucky enough to know today's guests through our work in the Chicago food community, even traveling together across the country and sharing some amazing meals for a good cause. Things are heating up, and it's not just the temperature. Please welcome the co-owners of Soul and Smoke, Chef DeAndre Carter and Heather Bublick. Hi, guys.
Hey, how's it going, Sarah?
I'm happy to see you. It's been a minute, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
I know. You guys are out and about everywhere, though. So I always love keeping in touch on social media and seeing what's going on with you.
For sure. Us too. We try and stay busy.
Yeah, the summer times always get crazy for us, so we try to be out there as much as we can. We try to put the brand in front of as many people as possible. So we always hard at work.
Yes.
We spent our early career feeding the few, and then when you go to feeding the many, you have to be able to be out there and be in the community and getting our food out into as many mouths as possible. So
I love that. That's such a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Well, I always love to start at the beginning here. And you can each answer each of these questions most of the time or say, hey, you take this one. I'd love to hear, though, when you each first fell in love with food. What were some of those favorite foods you had as a kid?
Just pretty much some of the food that's on the Soul and Smoke menu, like mac and cheese, collard greens. I remember my grandma used to make like hot water cornbread. We used to make butter cookies together. So it was always like a fun activity. My grandmother and I always like really enjoyed tasting the food. At that time, I didn't know I wanted to be a chef. I just was pretty much like eating food, hanging out with my grandmother.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
For me, I was a vegetarian growing up. I was a very stubborn 9-year-old who didn't want to eat meat anymore. And my mom told me that I could do that, but I needed to make my own food. So learning how to cook that way and getting really into it through those means.
Oh, wow. So what were you cooking at such a young age?
I mean, not the healthiest food. I was eating a lot of guacamole and pasta salads and things like that. But I learned to love chips and dip and all kinds of dip really early on. That was a big one.
I mean, who can pass up guacamole? And healthy fats,
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. And that plus some good barbecue on the side, you can put it all together. It's perfect.
Right. Yeah.
So what were some of those moments as you all decided to get into your careers that you decided to go into the culinary arts and hospitality? Any aha moments for either of you?
Yeah, this one, the aha moment for me was kind of like my first job was one of my first cooking job was at the Olive Garden out here in Chicago suburbs. And honestly, for me, I kind of fell in love with the rush first. And after working at the Olive Garden for, I think about 2 years I worked there, but I really was really interested in how the sauces was being made, how the process was being made. And I started getting into the cooking reality show, looking at that stuff, looking at Emerald. And I was like, yo, I really want to learn how to make this Alfredo sauce. I want to learn how to make my own pasta. So that led me to sign up for culinary school. It was more about learning more about the cuisine. It was kind of different, Olive Garden, fast paced, fast service, turn and burn. But for me, I just wanted more out of that experience. Yeah, I wanted to learn as much as I can. I really wanted to be a great chef.
Yeah. Where did you end up going to culinary school?
I went to the Cordon Bleu here in Chicago.
Excellent. That's a good one.
Yeah, in the Hospitality Institute. Chic.
Where'd you? I love it.
Warm. Yeah. So it's just the story just kind of rolled out from there. And I went to culinary school and it was time to do internships. But I know we'll talk about this later on. That's how I pretty much ended up at Moto. Yeah, it was just working with some of the best in the city. I just wanted to be around the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, similar. I was working in a few restaurants here and there. I was working in a deli and then a hot dog stand, places where you cut your teeth in the beginning. And obviously, like when both of us were coming up, like the Food Network was everywhere. And like that was a huge influence on so many of us. But the big turning point was I went to school and was getting a degree in nonfiction writing
Wow.
and looking at like what kind of job do you get? Like the things I wanted to write about was I wanted to write about food. So I ended up going to culinary school and convincing my mom that if she sent me to culinary school, I could become a food writer, which I never ended up doing that. Well, once I was in culinary school, it was like I needed to, work in a kitchen and like really explore it. That's when I started eating meat. I was like, if I'm going to go to culinary school, I got to eat meat. And so I had to like learn how to do that. But it was a fun journey.
It reminds me of Gail Simmons' story a little bit, when she first said, I want to be a food writer.
Yeah.
And someone ended up telling her, like, but you have to know food. And so that's how she was doing some back of house work, it sounds like, before she became Gail Simmons and doing everything she's doing. So there's time, Heather. If you want to sit down and write a book, you totally could, or a blog or anything.
Yeah. My spare time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next chapter, whatever that comes along as.
Exactly.
So, DeAndre, you mentioned a very important place. And this is actually where the two of you met. This is not only a business story, this is a love story. And some of my favorite types of co-founders out there are also life partners. So what were a few more of those steps that you each took to end up at Moto, which was the amazing restaurant by the late chef Homaro Cantu? And Heather, you also had a background with wine as well.
Yeah. When it came time for internships, I staged at a lot of places around the city. I thought I was going to do my internship at GE. I had like made up my mind. I had decided, but I still had my stage set at Moto. And so I did the stage. And even after the 2 days, I was like, I'm not going to work here. I'm working at GE, this place.
Graham Elliott's.
Yeah.
Gorgeous glasses. Yes.
Right. Like that stage. I don't know. I like cut tomatoes for a day. Like it was totally different than working in Moto. But anyways, when they offered me the internship, they sold it where they teach you the front of the house, they teach you the back of the house, they'll teach you food photography. Like it was this all encompassing thing. And walking out of that room, I was like, oh, I'm doing my internship at Moto, which is how I ended up there. But Omar had come to the school and did like a lecture and talked about a lot of his philosophies and things like that. And that was really what drew me in and why I ended up staging. And he told this story about a chocolate chip cookie. And I tell it all the time because it was so impactful. But he said that his idea of making the best chocolate chip cookie is to make chocolate chip cookies, grind them up, turn it into a flour, and then use that flour to make chocolate chip cookies. So you'll have chocolate chip cookies that taste more like chocolate chip cookies than chocolate chip cookies. And like, whoa. And that putting flavor into every step of the recipe and all the different components was so fundamental. And being around someone who just thought about things differently was so exciting at the time.
Yeah, so creative too.
So that's how I found myself at Moto.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I kind of like found Moto through YouTube. So it was like time for like internships. And I was about to take an internship like in Florida. But, when I was like in the school library, just surfing the web, checking out like different places. At that time, I knew I didn't want to do any like French, like just straight French cooking because I just thought that wasn't like the most exciting.
Yeah.
So I ran across Ben and Omar playing around with lasers. People would come in, dine in, that they read the menu and they'll like eat the menu after that. You had things like cigars, like roadkill, like all those dishes. Just like to me, it was just beyond its time. This is like around like 2008.
Yeah.
It's like searching the web, and I was like, yo, I'm out of eating at these places. So I kind of reached out, and Chris Jones kind of like, hit me back up like, yo, we actually doing some stages for some internships. Feel free to come through such and such date. So I went for this stage and I was like, man, this place is like the coolest kitchen I ever seen. I'm around like these serious chefs. They was taking it like very serious. And I'm seeing like all these cool techniques. It was like just being like on live TV, just like watching those guys. So I was hooked right then and there.
Yeah.
And then, I did my stage and everything worked out great. It was like one of the hardest job interviews I ever done in my life because it's a 2-day stage. And it was just like a tough thing to get through, but it was something I was very determined to make it to the end. And I really wanted to be part of that crew. So I stayed there and the rest was history. I ended up, working my way up to get running that place.
Wow. Wow.
It was a hard kitchen to work into. The kitchen was in the basement.
Yeah.
So,
Oh God.
and when you're staging, like your job is like bring the food upstairs. We used to joke that people would start working there and they would lose 20 pounds in their first few weeks just from running up and down the stair.
Yeah. Cause run up and down the stairs the first day, like, so you're doing it. It's kind of like if you weren't used to working out, your body was going to be sore the next day. And then you have to wake up and like get through that. And then if you really wanted to work there, you accept the job. But like, man, my body was like, oh, I never like was this sore. I had to come from work. But after a while, I worked there for, like I said, 4 years. It was nothing. It was a great experience. I learned a ton. And I felt like we was the best kitchen crew in Chicago, honestly.
It sounded like such an amazing time. I'm really sad. Sorry, I missed it. I was off at school but hearing about it since is just incredible. What was the environment like? I mean, obviously you were physically working hard. Did you feel it was very collaborative, or were you having some of those moments that you hear of in the past with chefs of buckle down, you're here to work and that's it?
It was definitely a buckle down, you're here to work, but at the same time, like they threw you in it.
Yeah.
My very first day, I cut my finger and I had stitches. And so they threw me into expo and I was expoing for service. I barely knew the menu, but it was definitely like teaching as you go.
Yeah.
They were invested in you. I did a 6-month internship and started in the kitchen, expoed many nights. Then eventually I was running my own station as an intern, where I remember, going back to culinary school, and the other kids didn't have that experience. They were working a job and we were helping run a restaurant. And that was unlike anything.
Yeah, for me, it was just like I was making like a transition from, like I said, like coming out of culinary school. I just finished working at the Olive Garden. The fun and games was over. Like serious. Like, okay, you're not burning something, you're not cooking something wrong and thinking it's okay to send out. Like the standards was very high, and you had people there to kind of like watch over those dishes. And it was very collaborative. Like I can remember, like on my way to work, I used to live on the South Side, driving to Moto. Every Tuesday would be like, Omar would have this all staff meeting, and we just like discuss like new ideas, new menu items, anything new, anything anybody wanted to say, or any ideas that people wanted to introduce. That was the platform. And then if it was something good, maybe somebody else might hop in like, oh yeah, let's add this and let's do this. And next thing you know, it's in the test kitchen and if make it to the menu. It was on the menu. So just seeing that start to finish from idea to actually being something I never seen before. And it was super cool to be part of the process. But yeah, it was definitely like, okay, no more cooking for fun. You cooking to work. You pay a lot of money to eat this food. People was paying $350. Like it was a lot of money back in the day. Right now you can get a tasting menu like $500.
Right.
It's just like 600, but 300, that was a ton of money. And everything had to be executed flawlessly.
Wow. And especially again at Michelin-starred level, everything has to be perfect. But it also sounds like you all had the chance to be like mad scientists and that you were given a voice no matter what your position was.
Yeah. And they really did an incredible job of like, you were part of the team. Like day one, you're in that kitchen, you're part of the team. But the team's job is to feed all these people tonight and we all got to get it done. And it was a different time then. It was all about just, we were all determined to be the best. So it was, what time do you have to come in to get all your stuff ready? And that's what time you got there. And if you had to get there at 10 a.m., everyone was coming in at 10 a.m. with you. So it was always like at the end of the night, it was like, what time does everyone need to be in? And we would like go around and tell, and you didn't want to say too early, but you wanted to be there early enough, so like, but it was, one team, one dream. We all worked together in unison. And if you need to be there at noon, but everyone else needs to be there at 2. Well, what do you need to get done? And how can we all come in at 1? And that conversation would happen at the end of the night. And
that makes me so happy. It sounds like you said a lot less competing against each other.
Yeah.
It's here for the same purpose. So when did you two end up meeting during that time?
So he was an intern already and I was staging for my internship and we met that day.
Goodness. Oh my gosh. So you all have known each other well over a decade.
Yeah.
And have been together. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Amazing. And it was really integral as a foundation for you all to learn how to run your own business together one day.
Yeah, for sure. When you start in this industry, and probably like any industry, you need to put in your reps. And like we put in those reps at Moto and, we were there open to close 5 days a week, no matter what, every day.
Yeah, and that was the goal back then. People, everybody, eventually wanted their own restaurant. Everybody was working to get better, to build up their resume, to have experience in all different type of cuisine, to execute their vision. So I would definitely say back in the day, 80% of the chefs, they definitely was, the goal was to open their own place.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty much like how we got into it. I can just roll right into like the next subject on like how we got started because like I said around that time, well, it's around 2013 now, and the underground dining scene was getting pretty popular in Chicago. You had
Yes.
a supper club. So that was a ways for talented chefs to do these dinners. They was hosting these dinners like anywhere they could think of. Art galleries, they was bar restaurants, on their off days or cooking out their apartments sometimes. Yeah, it was a secret dinner club and people was excited. It was adding a new twist to dining. And that's what made it exciting.
Wow. So were you two doing these together?
Yeah, I was living in Evanston at the time, and there was a space that was about to open here in Evanston that was going to be hosting like a rotating chef dinner series. And I would be telling him, like, you should come to Evanston and do a dinner. Then one thing led to a next, and finally it was that time, and we ended up doing our first 3 dinners in that space. Yeah, then it just went from there. The space ended up not being fully ready. So for our 3rd or 4th dinner, they needed to cancel it. So we moved it underground into our apartment,
Ooh.
which by then we were living together. So we moved it to our apartment. We had like 6 tickets sold already. Our dining room table could seat 8. And we're like, this is what we're going to have to do. We were always from this restaurant mindset of we're going to make it happen. Like,
Yes.
no matter what, like there was no canceling this dinner. That's our reputation. These people bought tickets. We're going to make it happen, here. So we
Absolutely.
moved underground, and underground turned us into a catering company where we only sat 8 and people wanted to rent the whole table, or they wanted to have us come to their home because they could seat 12 and they wanted to have their 12 friends come over. So private dinners, and next thing you know, we're catering cocktail parties, and our first 3 brides were all girls that came and sat at our dining room table in our apartment in Evanston and felt that we could cater their wedding. And we were always, we're going to say yes, and then we're going to figure out how to do it. And that's just how it grew and blossomed.
Yes. Building the plane as you're flying it. Very much so.
Since day
So
one.
was this Soul and Smoke immediately? Was it barbecue? What were the type of iterations you were having as you were doing some of these supper clubs and catering that became Soul and Smoke today?
For sure. It was all Feast and Imbibe. So that was what we did, all the pop-ups under. But very early on, people started asking us for drop-off orders, and everything needed a chef on site. We were doing 5-course tasting menus with wine pairings for our underground dinners. Like we didn't have a drop-off menu.
Yeah.
And we always wanted, when we were catering, this is 2012. There wasn't a lot of the chef-driven catering companies that exist today. And back then, catering was known for like rubber chicken and really bland, flavorless food. We wanted to be able to set up kitchens everywhere and create excellent quality food, excellent quality service at a restaurant level for people's private events. Like, you should be able to have that. So we had to come up with a separate drop-off menu. We didn't want to risk quality. And so very early on, we came up with Soul and Smoke's menu. We didn't name it Soul and Smoke right away, but it had like a separate drop-off menu. And if you knew, you knew. We didn't have like a website for it. There was nowhere to find it. And then in about 2015, we separated it out and called it Soul and Smoke and started to refine it a little bit, but it was still primarily drop-off catering. We knew that there was more to it. We knew we wanted it to go to farmers markets. We had like that vision for it, but it wasn't really until the pandemic when it really took off.
Right. That was a huge turning point for so many folks. I mean, usually in an unfortunate way, but it also inspired a lot of creativity and pivots that happened here. So tell us how you really leaned fully into Soul and Smoke here, what that original menu looked like, and how you started to build it. You had an incredible moment too with Jose Andres with World Central Kitchen.
Yeah.
I mean, manifesting here, like what a dream to work with that organization.
But it all just really happened very organically. We're based in Evanston. And when the Evanston schools started talking about closing, there was a lot of conversations among the community about how are we going to get the kids fed. And we had our catering commissary kitchen, and we had our staff that we hadn't furloughed. and we had to keep them busy. And instantly we were like, oh, we can feed the kids. Like that is something that, we can do. And we did. And we started off the first day, we're like, we'll do 20 meals and whoever comes and picks them up. We're in the heart of the 5th ward. So we were accessible to the most in need in Evanston. And we opened our doors and the community came out with donations and they wanted to have us do more and more. And we weren't holding any donations. So we had enough to make 70 meals that day. We were making 70 meals. And the Evanston Community Foundation very early on picked us up and they provided grant funding for 300 meals a day for the community. And that was amazing. This is like right as the schools were closing. And then I was on the phone with Derek from the Trotter Project. And I was like, there's such a need. Like I'm getting more phone calls than I can help these people. There were so many people who wanted food and that were losing their jobs, that didn't know how they were going to get it. That were maybe not documented and wasn't going to get any kind of unemployment. Like there was just so many people in need and we couldn't help as many people that were reaching out. And I was like, how do we get World Central Kitchen here? And he said, hold on. And in true Derek fashion, maybe 10 minutes later, I was on the phone with Christy Katz, who was the Chicago rep from World Central Kitchen. And she's like, can you do 500 meals on Monday? And I was like, yeah, we can. And so we did. We dropped them off to Montessori Inglewood. And the rest was history. We were doing somewhere between 300 to 500 meals a day for World Central Kitchen. We were doing 300 meals a day for the Evanston Community Foundation. The Evanston community was still donating little bits here and there. So we were feeding people that were on our like side list and stuff like that. And there were so many organizations that would reach out to us because they heard what we were doing and asked for 100 meals here, 200 meals here. And we were able to fulfill that based on different needs. And we were able to connect World Central Kitchen to different organizations that needed assistance. And it was a hub for it. Probably a week or two in, we kept on saying like Feast Imbibe was donating meals. And a week or two in, I looked at DeAndre and I was like, but this is really Soul and Smoke food that we're serving. Like, this is really Soul and Smoke doing this.
This is the soul.
Yeah. And so that's when we pivoted into Soul and Smoke a little bit more. I mean, we never knew when the funding was going to go away. We never knew when that was going to end, So that was hard. We were always trying to come up with the next pivot. And a lot of it was, we'll do the farmer's market this summer. We bought a food truck, like little things where we thought the food truck could morph into events once events came back. And then as fall took and farmers markets closed again and food truck season was dying out, that's when we started doing takeout out of our front door.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And DeAndre, what was that challenge like cooking at that scale? Again, like you said earlier on, you went from feeding few to feeding the many. And it truly was the many. These weren't even folks who were sitting down, say, in a restaurant. And this is not, a couple of $350 dinners per night. What was that like? And how were you focusing essentially on scale, but keeping that sense of quality and love at the same time?
Yeah, so quality and love was always like top of mind. So you got to keep in mind, it's the food I grew up eating. So I knew what I wanted it to taste like. We was already caterers. We was already doing like 200, 300 person weddings and corporate events, and we had the infrastructure. We had the employees, we had the space, and we had the transportation. So it was all about just getting organized and just coming up with a menu that can fit everyone's need. It was just about staying ahead. Once we get the numbers in advance, I would write out the menu, I would start bringing in the products, we'd start prepping the items, and then we start cooking the items, and then cooling the items. All the meals was cold, so that would help out a lot. So yeah, it was just about staying organized, that way we kept all our employees employed, everyone was staying busy, and we was helping people at the same time. And just making food taste good, it was just second nature to me. That's how a lot of people found out about us. They was like, oh, where you guys been at all this time? This food is so good. People was like loving it and just like, wow, you really gonna invest in that. We were still in between Feast Imbibe and Soul and Smoke. Feast Imbibe was our first business. Soul and Smoke was always like the kid brother or sister. All the attention went on Feast Imbibe. But after the pandemic, things kind of shifted. It's hard for us too, because we put a lot of time and energy into Feast Imbibe. We wanted that to be a cutting edge property here in Chicago. The tables just turned. We just kept going, and this is where we at today.
Yeah. And I think that we have so much love for Feast Imbibe. I think it was really hard for both of us to let it go. But, I think at the core, we always knew that it was never scalable. It was always about DeAndre, and like DeAndre had to be at every event. And that was hard. And as the pandemic ended, the idea of like booking an event a year and a half out when the future has been changing at such a fast pace also became like unsustainable. And bless the hearts of the caterers that are booking things out a year and a half, 2 years in advance.
I remember like a
That for
big,
me was hard.
also turning point, like all the event staff and office staff, everyone just like working Soul Smoke hours better. They come in, we prep, we all be done by like no later than 6:37. When we doing those weddings and stuff, we'll be getting down like at 1 a.m, you know,
Yeah.
load the truck up, come back, unload all the stuff.
Yeah.
So it was just like always take the employees in consideration. Like this is a team effort.
Yeah. And the unpredictability of it, like, you know, Soul and Smoke is like set hours and set days, and they're always the same. Technically, we're open 7 days a week and we only close on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving Day. So it's a lot, but you know what it is. Whereas catering, it's like you could have 3 events one Saturday and then one Saturday have one. And that was just such a hard thing to always manage and deal with it. So this new life was more sustainable and enjoyable, I think, for everybody involved.
Yeah. Well, one, thank you guys for everything that you've done to give back. I think it's such an amazing example. And even though been there too, it's so hard to say goodbye to a baby. When I say baby, a business, because you put all of your soul into it, your heart. I think it allowed you to grow. I think it really allowed you to say, no, this next chapter needs to be about this. And now you can find you guys throughout Chicagoland and at Soldier Field. And I can't wait to talk more about this. What was it like when you said, okay, we're going to go ahead and open our own storefront?
You know, even when we did it, we didn't know we were doing it. People were able to like order in smaller quantities. Obviously, it was the pandemic, so we had already gone down to you can order by the pound and things like that. But we needed like a day's notice and stuff like that. And then I said to DeAndre, I was like, we need to be able to allow people to order on demand.
Yeah.
And so that's what we called it. We called it on demand. We opened up on demand ordering. We didn't realize we were opening a restaurant yet. I think the first day we didn't get a ton of orders, but then the second day we did. And it just like really ramped up from there. It surprised everybody how popular it had become. And then once we got reviewed by the Tribune, that's when it got like real serious. We were like, oh, we're a restaurant. Better Magazine gave us a Best New Restaurant Award. And it was at that point, like we were still in pandemic pivot mode. You know, this is October of 2020 when we first started. Like we're still in it. So we didn't know, but like all things as we've grown, like our customers dictated what was going to happen. And it was clear that we needed to open a restaurant. We had bought this building in Evanston 3 weeks before the pandemic, I want to say, before.
Oh, no.
Right.
Which, like, it's always right then. Is every story I've heard.
Yeah. February 21st of 2020, we bought the building. And we had an event space in the building. And so we always thought that we were going to make the event space bigger. And it became clear that we were going to have to turn it into a restaurant instead. So that always made sense to us. It was a much bigger project than just expanding an event space. So that was certainly a challenge. But because of our catering infrastructure, opening the locations was really easy. Having this commissary model where we have this huge commissary kitchen. When we first moved in here, it used to be a shared kitchen. So we have like a large catering commissary kitchen. And we had a warehouse team. We had delivery vans. Like all of that always just made sense for how we were growing. In our current form, we have slowed on opening outlets so we can focus on opening what we're calling our flagship. But then once the flagship's up and running, I hope that we get back to opening outlets again.
And for the empire to continue.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, we feel like because we are a pandemic pivot, we've never given everybody the full version of Soul and Smoke. It's always been just creating fast and quickly so that we could get open and keep our team employed and all that this is like the full version that's going to open here in Evanston. So that's exciting.
This is super exciting. And I want to hear a little bit more about the menu behind this. So again, when you say fast and quick, it is still very high quality, fast casual food that you all have been putting out in addition to your catering. I love your spot on the river in Avondale. It's the perfect spot to get some mac and cheese, get that pulled pork sandwich. But things are going to look a little bit different at the flagship location in Evanston. How are you going to be combining that background that you all have from Moto with really that soul-warming food of barbecue?
For sure. So starting off is we're going to have our all-day barbecue menu that'll mimic what we're doing at the outlets, what we're doing in Evanston now, very similar to that. There'll be a couple of tweaks here and there on the all-day menu, but then as light and bright as the space will be during the day, it'll get a little dimmer, a little darker, a little sexier. The music will change, and we'll have a separate dinner menu here in Evanston that'll be a little bit more elevated, a little bit fancier. Have some of our exciting dishes coming.
Yeah. So like Hannah mentioned, we're gonna have like the all day menu and dinner menu. And that's you already see like most of the fine dining techniques, the service model. We're gonna have Heather's gonna be coming back into Homaro, so she's gonna eggs and pairing wines. I'm gonna be doing things like steak dinners, seafood platters, grilled prawns, oysters, deviled eggs, a bunch of like plated dishes. So you'll be able to see the barbecue technique being elevated and used in different ways versus, what you expect that the primal cuts would be. You'll see a lot different menu, different products being grilled and smoked and presented, and just having a good time. And on top of that, we go playing some hip hop. We got a little stage in there. We got a full service bar.
Ooh.
So we got counter seating. So people can come to like a barbecue spot and sit around the kitchen. And then we also got it facing towards our pit room as well. So it bring an extra layer of ambiance to the food.
That is so cool. I can't wait to see those space. And you're also bringing back your own version of the cigar, correct?
Yeah. So we're doing barbecue inspired. At Moto, we used to do like the sofrito pork with the grape leaf. Now we're doing collard greens and smoked brisket and doing my signature barbecue sauce as the fire. So we resonate those flavors and just being creative.
Yeah, we're putting Moto cigar on the menu. Have that homage to Omar and everything that was and still lives on in all of us.
Yeah, that's such a good tribute to him. And I was just looking at the next applicants for the Homaro Cantu scholarship today for the Trotter Project. It's so hard to choose like just one or two of these kids each year because there's so many people that really embody that sense of hospitality. And it's just makes me so happy you guys are continuing that on in your own way, in your own legacy.
Yeah, we miss them every day.
For sure.
Yeah.
And yes, you if a part of the journey. I think that, just speaking of Omar and the journey and not to sound like selfish, but you got mentors, you got chefs, and one day I'm gonna speak up for my culinary team. You out on your own, you need someone who's done it before, who's familiar with the process and who can give guidance. Once that happened to Omar, once it passed away, we was out there, but a lot of people still just find out about us. We took their long path.
Yeah, losing him was hard.
Yeah. And we'd be around like other chefs that came from like Volca and, Alenia and, you got Grant, you got Giuseppe and Bill Kim really pushing their proteges through. So we've been carving out a name for Soul and Smoke and also getting people familiar with, who Heather and I are.
Yes. Yeah. That's so important. And you guys are doing that too in so many different ways. I don't even know how you're balancing it all. Maybe you can give everyone some tips here of you have catering, you have the storefronts, you have the Soldier Field location. You also have a CPG line, which is how we all met through Here Market of sauces and rubs. And you're doing a great job as well in terms of your marketing, just reaching folks. So what inspired you to say we're going to do all of these different versions?
I like to tell people, it was like survival, man. And we pivoting, we coming from this full service catering company where everything was planned, everything was budgeted into like, oh, now we serving people day to day and the hustle don't stop and we got all this staff. What can we do next? We got Evanston, but during that process, doing to go or food on demand, we found that people outside a 3 to 5 mile radius wasn't able to try some smoke. That's when the ghost kitchens kicked in. We're like, oh, we got this new ghost kitchen concept. It's low cost. We can get our food across Chicago. So we went to the Avondale ghost kitchen. Then we ended up signing to the South Loop ghost kitchen. So at night, those 5 mile radius was like touching each other. We was able to serve people from Glenview all the way to 35th and King Drive. So that kind of like expanded our reach, giving people access to us as we grow. And we just always just thinking of ways to bring in more revenue to keep our employees employed and to stay in business. We wasn't shutting down. It wasn't an option for us. It was just, how do we continue to keep going? And luckily we had a good enough team that understood us. They didn't want to close either. They wanted to keep working. So they was going to be flexible in the jobs that we was doing just to continue to stay working.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you heard a lot that you need like multiple revenue streams during the pandemic. And so we created lots of them. It was definitely about survival and getting through, but it also just made sense for the infrastructure we already had in place. So it just worked.
Yeah, diversified portfolio.
Right. You
It
had
worked out in the end.
Good. Yeah, I think that's why I want people to get most out of the Soul and Smoke story out of Heather and I starting the family. Like, we had the kids like during the process of building all this stuff. Our kids are 7 and 4, Max and Corey. Just being pregnant, raising kids, working at the same time, being the owner. Being an owner is like a lot different from you being an employee because it becomes like a lifestyle. People are like, oh, how do you guys work that much? How do you do this? How do you do that? But you just wake up and things got to be done. Like things got to be done. You got to do this. You got to do that. We're responsible for getting things done until one day you wake up and it's just part of the day. You wake up, get the things done, and you move forward. Today, we're not working like 7 days a week for 7 years, like we used to, but, we still very much involved like every single day. We both like raising our kids, but like if I'm at work on a weekend, like Heather's, job is to make sure the kids are having a good time and having a nice time experience in life and spending that partly time with them.
Yeah. And I feel like you two show such a good balance of that. I always used to hear this from my parents, just for life partners. And this goes the same for co-owners and co-founders of businesses too, because it is such an intense relationship. Is they never said give 50-50. It's always give 60-60, because sometimes someone can't cover or someone's just going through it. And so you have the little bit of extra to lend a hand in some of those areas. And how are you all feeling like you're able to balance then being life partners plus co-owners, spending time with your adorable daughters who already have better taste in food than most mid-spring children that I know?
Thank God. In terms of balance, I don't know that there's a good solid answer, but it really is about it all has to get done. And, we both have the same goals and aspirations for Soul and Smoke. We have the same goals and aspirations for our kids. We want them to be able to have the best of everything. We want the business to have the best of everything. We've made sure to build our team in such a way that certain things are being handled. We communicate a lot on Slack. So even when I'm with the kids, I'm aware and present of what's going on at work and able to manage that a little bit. They would like me to be off Slack a little bit more than I probably am. But, they also understand, and we're telling them from an early age that we're trying to build Soul and Smoke. We're trying to build you an empire. I'm always saying that to them, this is your future too. They're so young and I know that they don't get it, but when they do get things and we go places, reminding them that mommy and daddy work a lot, but this is why we work so hard, so that you can have the things that you want in life. And, instilling those values now is really important to us. Even this weekend, I was telling Max, I'm we're worker bees. That's what we do. We work and then we get the things that we want. And that's always something that we're imparting in. And, we love what we do. When you love what you do, it makes it all really easy.
Yeah, that's why I tell people that all the time. I'm like, man, first of all, you got to find something you really love doing, and then you got to get really good at it. And then things should be a little bit easier after that, after you get good at it, because you can be considered an expert when people will come to you.
Yeah.
For whatever thing that you get at. It don't have to be cooking. It can be painting. It could be anything, but you got to find something you really like doing. Just become good at it, and should be good from there.
Yeah. I would never paint us as workaholic martyrs. We do it because we love to do it, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Are there times where we're okay, I'm a little overwhelmed, and sure, but I think everyone gets that way, and we truly love it. And we've learned to also find the things that rejuvenate us and restore us, and having those breaks is important. And that's where we find our balance.
That's just such good values that you're instilling so early with the girls, and just for anyone too. Is we are all going to get burned out and overwhelmed by things at times, but like you said, if your heart is totally in it, yes, it's work, but it doesn't feel so hard. It feels just one more step in part of the journey. And I bet at least one of your kids is going to be an entrepreneur one day.
Yeah, our oldest Max said, she said she want to work with us. So we'll see
how. Keep it going.
Yeah.
End of year folder said, I want to be a chef, which was the cutest. She usually tells people that she wants to work in the office and in the kitchen. So we'll see. We'll see what
She's
her
the new
role is.
CEO.
Uh-huh.
So we've talked a lot about how 2020 was a really pivotal time for
Yeah.
folks, especially in food and bev, hospitality, agriculture. 2025 is shaping up to be similar in different aspects. I mean, there are a lot of things changing consistently. There's news just happening all the time. And there's a lot that we all have to do to put essentially some armor on to keep moving forward. What are some of those moments for you all that you stay motivated, that you're working with your team, that you're making sure everyone feels good and safe and can keep pushing forward in this pursuit?
It's hard. There's so much changing all the time, whether it's climate, the industry, policy, whether it's locally or federally, there's always something going on and something to stay on top of. And as a business owner, it's really hard to manage. Being in the restaurant industry is hard on a good day.
Yeah.
All chefs care about like where their food comes from and things like that. Like we love our ingredients and we care about the climate and we care about sustainability and making all of those right choices while then also making sure that your team has a sustainable life and income and livable wages and balancing that with your community and community work and stuff like that. Like it's hard on a good day. So I don't necessarily know that there's any strong or fast answers, but we're always trying to do what's right and communicate with our team on why we're doing the things that we're doing and having them be part of it. Our biggest initiative, which is our community fridge here in Evanston, is the perfect way. And what we found is that the right employees come to us because they care about the things that we're doing and they want to be part of it, which has been, really amazing. And then we've been able to virtually eliminate our food waste by, using our community fridge, which has been huge and incredible, given what's going on right now with ICE and keeping employees safe. You can pass out all the messaging that they've shared about knowing your rights and things like that. But then you hear from people and they're like, as much as you know that, you don't feel like you have any rights when all this is going on. And so keeping your team safe is really important right now. And it's hard and it's taxing. And I like to believe that this industry, we care about each other and, just keeping each other safe is number one at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, taking it one day at a time is another one. We're attending as many seminars and learning opportunities to make sure that we're aware of everything that's going on. Jan's on the board of the Illinois Restaurant Association, and they've been really great at communicating what's going on and how to best communicate with your team. And that's been helpful, but it's a lot.
It is. And thank you for sharing that too, because I know it's not easy to talk about these things. I always find that it's important that we do, though. And I think the care that you're showing everyone around you is really going to be, it's the ripple effect we all need. We all just need, I'm always sitting here like we just all need to love each other more.
Right? Like for real. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, shout out to Illinois Restaurant Association. I know they're so amazing. The other IRAs. And it's that one step at a time and knowing that there are a lot of people with the same goals. And I think we can get there.
It's a fight that has to be fought right now and looking forward to the other side.
For sure. Maybe on a lighter note, what would you all, but playing off of that, what would you all say you're most proud of? What do you want to do to continue to grow? And what do you think is next?
One of the things I'm most proud of, like we're on Eater 38. And that to me was like a really proud moment where like to be a cornerstone of Chicago restaurants, that to me was huge. Like that's the list I go to when I go out of town.
Yeah.
Another city's Eater 38. So that was like huge. But I think at the core of what we're most proud of is this building, the facility that we're growing.
Independent, being able to, get all this from like starting, from doing like underground dinners. And now we got almost 50 employees, 4 locations, 2 trucks, catering, retail, no investors. Just pretty much just straight like hard work.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that, we didn't talk about necessarily earlier, but, we do have all these things and it sometimes appears that it happened overnight, but it really is the culmination of a decade plus of building and growing slowly. That has really put us into the position that we're in. And we're really excited. While we're building this restaurant, we've expanded our commissary to be able to increase production, and we increased our smoker room capacity, like all these things in tandem. We're having a bottling line installed, so we'll be able to bottle our sauces in-house and take that away from packers. We're so excited about that.
Yeah, super cool. It's going to be a learning process for the staff too. Like the staff that's been here a really long time, they've been learning every step of the way. So hopefully, once they're ready to settle on their own, they learn some things working here. Because we definitely the American dream, going after something you really believe in and really want.
Yeah. You guys are the true bootstrap mentality, and I love that.
Yeah, and the fact that we own the building and we're building this 175-seat restaurant in it attached to our commissary. It's a 10,000 square foot facility, and it's, an old bus storage depot. Like, it's been a project and a half, and we're really almost at the finish line, which is huge and rewarding. And we like to believe that once it's open, it's all going to pay off, I guess.
Yes. And then there will be the next bus depot to go after.
Yes. Then we go back to opening outposts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And O'Hare Airport, all the things.
Ooh. Oh, that would be a very good flight meal.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, such good plans. So last question before we get to the world's best and hardest question. So what is advice that you all would like to give anyone who's looking to open their own business in food and bev or in any other industry?
Be ready to work.
Yeah, just be ready to work.
Yeah.
Be a people person. Really getting your message across is really key these days. Times are different and most people need to live in the motivation, but just being involved with them, mentoring them, being flexible. We do flexible scheduling as well. Just finding new ways to run the business. That's what we're in the middle of today. So that'd be my advice. Don't give up on your dream. Work hard, stay consistent, but also be flexible and also listen. Listen to the customers, listen to the staff. And that's all helpful things that will help you get ahead.
Absolutely. All right, Heather and DeAndre, it's time. So this is a fun one, but people have called me demonic for this question because it's so hard to choose just one. A little reminder for everyone that this is called the perfect bite because not only is it a bit of a perfect bite of talking to folks across the industry, the value chain of food and bev, but because each of us has our own perfect bite, those recipes we grew up with, a meal maybe you had on a special occasion, or just that one bite that you had that you'll never forget and that will always stay with you. So I'd like to ask each of you, Heather and DeAndre, what are your perfect bites?
So my perfect bite, well, I'm gonna name one. So my favorite food, while I was working at the Olive Garden, I fell in love with pasta making, sauce making. And then once I got into fine dining, I fell in love with like truffles, caviar, and all that stuff. So I'll say grilled chicken Alfredo with shaved white truffles on top.
A little of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So that'll be my perfect bite. You get that grilled chicken, you got a nice homemade Parmesan sauce, fresh made pasta, shaved or grated Albany truffles.
Love it. Heather?
I'm going to go way simpler and say like a fresh guacamole with a good chip and like a squeeze of lime. That's where I'm going to end it. It's my favorite thing in the world. Crave it. I can have it every day if, someone twisted my arm.
Yes. Especially right now in summer. It's just so refreshing. Get that with a margarita, maybe a wine that Heather would recommend. Yeah. Oh man, this show always makes me hungry. Thank you guys. I love that your perfect bites also tied back to your whole story.
Yeah, it really does.
Then do. So, as we wrap up here, can you let listeners know where they can find you? So, the different venues, as well as your social accounts and anywhere else we should know coming up.
For sure. So, we are based here in Evanston. So, our flagship is being built. Right now, we have 4 picnic tables, though. Come on out and visit us. We're also in Avondale at Rockwell on the River. We have riverside dining available there, as well as an indoor, we call it our indoor patio. And then we're at a Center Tower in Ogilvie train station. We have a kiosk there. We're in Soldier Field in section 312. And then we have 2 food trucks that are out and about throughout the city, usually at summer festivals and private events. You can book those. And then our sauce and rubs and Mariano's, Valley,
HereHereMarket.com.
HereHereMarket.com. You can find our website all
Online.
over. Yeah.
And then you guys are at Soul and Smoke, correct? For Instagram?
At Soul and
Soul and
Smoke,
Smoke.
all spelled out one word.
Or you can go to the website, www.soulandsmoke.com. But yeah, Instagram, they keep you updated to like what food truck gonna be at next. If we're doing like any special events, social media, probably Instagram, Facebook, they probably get it first.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much. You're the best. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing too, especially for the community. I'm just excited for everyone to not only get to taste your food, but know that it's going back to some really great causes as well. And everyone, thank you for tuning in. This was Heather Bublick and Chef DeAndre Carter's Perfect Bite. Thanks for tuning in to The Perfect Bite today. You can listen to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Thanks in advance for subscribing, rating, and reviewing. You can follow The Perfect Bite on social media at Perfect Bite Pod. Now go get something good to eat.